You know, a little over 2 years ago, a new product came out, an affordable product that fundamentally changed the landscape of being a hi-fi enthusiast, of being an audiophile on a budget. And that product was this one. It's the Weem Mini Streamer. And it streams from the internet, from the cloud, not Bluetooth, not AirPlay. You don't need another device involved unless you're controlling that device. And since it wasn't Bluetooth and it wasn't AirPlay, it wasn't lossy. And what lossy means is that your music is compressed. And people will argue, but compressed music basically is inferior music. Doesn't mean it's still not good. Now, music streamers have been around for a long time, from Playfi, from Hios, Sonos, but the plucky upstart in the form of Weem kicked in the door and said, "Look at me, I'm here, let's play your music for less money." So this product that we're going to talk about today is the Arylic S10 Plus. I mention all of this because there was really no competition for Weem. The Weem Mini comes in around $80. It was released at $100, but it really sells around $80 or $90. The S10 Plus right now is coming in at $70. So it is less expensive than the Weem Mini. But is it better? We will find out today. We're going to talk about some specs. We're going to talk about how this works. We're going to talk about how it's different from the Weem, not only from a hardware perspective, but from a software perspective, which in my opinion is really where a streamer either excels or falls flat on its streamer face. And of course, we're going to talk about how it sounds. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about whether or not there's a new, affordable streamer. I was just looking on Amazon and I couldn't find the S10 Plus. When I Google it, S10 Plus is available from Arylic's website at $70. The S10, the previous version, is available for $55 and still available on Amazon, but at $70. Don't buy the S10. The S10 Plus makes things a little bit more interesting, but until it's in stock on Amazon, I'm a little bit hesitant to recommend it, because whenever something comes from China, whether it's from SMSL, Topping, Faziati, whomever, if there are issues, they generally say, hey, put it in a box and send it back to us in China at your expense, and then we're going to take it out of the box, see if it powers on, and if it does, we're going to tell you there's nothing wrong with it, and then you're going to have to pay to have it shipped back again. And on a $70 product, you want some type of assurance that you can get your money back. That's why I almost always recommend buying from Amazon directly when it comes to these affordable products. Anyway, let's talk about what the S10 Plus is. It's a streamer. It also can do Bluetooth. It also has an analog input. It also has an optical output. It also has a hard-wired LAN, Ethernet, whatever you want to call it, connection. It's powered over here by a 5-volt USB input. I think this one actually came with a 5-volt USB plug. And then you'll also see that it has a USB-A connection. So what you can do is stick a thumb drive with all of your favorite music on there and play it through the S10 Plus. On the top, it looks like these are depressible buttons, but they're not, which depresses me. They're similar to the Weem, to where you don't really feel like it's doing anything, but it does work. Then on the front, you've got a fancy screen. Yep, I alluded to it earlier about the software, how important software is to a streamer. Because on a streamer like the iFi Zen Stream, you can have the best hardware on the planet, but if you don't have a good software platform to play your music, then you probably aren't going to use that streamer as much as you should be. Is the Arylic software as good as the Weem? It's complicated. To To the best of my knowledge, and my knowledge is all based upon my experience, the Weem app and the Arylic app are based on the same bones or the same platform. There's an app that you have to download for all Arylic products. It's called 4Stream. That app is also utilized by other products out there from the likes of Dayton Audio, which you get on Parts Express. So a lot of affordable streamers are built upon the 4Stream app, or you use the 4Stream app to control the device. When you open up a Weem, when you connect a Weem or an Arylic product initially out of the box, it actually shows up on both apps. At least it used to. So if I turned on a new Weem product and I had the 4Stream app open, you would see an option to add that Weem product to the 4Stream platform. Problem is, you can add it, but it doesn't work. This is kind of confusing. I get it. But the Weem platform has more versatility, more options than the 4Stream platform does. However, Arylic now has another app that you have to download and use to unlock the potential of the Arylic products. And that app is called Go Control. On Go Control, there are a bunch of options. You can change the inputs, which you can also do on the 4Stream app. But the thing that you need the Go Control app for is tone controls, balance control, bass control, mid-range control, and it also has a high-pass filter. I haven't tested that yet. I'm going to test it. The problem that I see is if you initiate a high-pass filter from the analog output. Okay, so the way that you connect this thing to your stereo, you'll have a 3.5 connection over here, which looks like a headphone jack. And then on the other end, that will go into an RCA, so you have a red and a white. Little cord goes into two cords. The problem that I see that could potentially happen is if you are applying a high-pass filter to the analog output, you no longer have any bass going into your device. So it's not as simple as putting a high-pass filter on your front channels and leaving your subwoofer channel alone or your subwoofer output alone, because there is no subwoofer output on the S10 Plus. That is a cool option to have if you have a separate subwoofer output. And I know some of the other Arylic products that have come in do have a separate subwoofer output. But on this product, although it's cool to have a high-pass filter, it's kind of useless because you're going to be taking away all the bass. If you select the EQ, you have a couple of options that are baked in, and you don't really see what they're doing. So I had it on rock, but if you put it on pop, you don't see any changes in the levels. But if you go to custom, then you can start playing with the different levels, which is good, which is awesome, which kind of catches up a little bit with the Weem software. The problem is you now are using two different apps to control, because you can't control the music. You can skip tracks on the Go Control app, forward and aft, backwards and forwards, but you can't select between different music servers. Like if you want to go from Tidal to Amazon Music to Spotify, you can't do that in the Go Control app. So fundamentally, if you do want to control any type of balance, tone issues, EQs, high-pass filters, you're having to go into a different app. Is that a deal breaker? Probably not for most people, because they're probably only going to be adjusting tone controls or EQ once in a while. But it is something that is different, and it is a bit less convenient than the Weem software. The Arylic S10 Plus is hooked up to, I just got it out of the box today, it's the Cambridge Audio CXA81. It's an integrated amplifier, so it has an internal DAC. So the S10 is hooked up via analog and digital at the same time, which makes it really easy to compare the two. Now the DAC that I'm using is the one that's internal to the Cambridge Audio, But with just a flip of a switch or the push of a button, I'm switching back and forth between analog and digital because, well, digital output is on all the time on the Arylic S10 Plus. Is that a bad thing? Not really. Makes it easy to compare. There is a level disparity though, so when I'm listening to the analog output, I'm actually having to control volume on the Arylic itself. However, you could just max out the volume there and then control the volume on the Cambridge Audio, which is probably what I would recommend, but I'd actually probably recommend putting the volume at the S10 Plus really about 80% and then controlling it. I don't know if there's any distortion at full tilt with whatever op amps they have inside. It's pretty obvious, and actually using the internal DAC or using the analog output of the S10 Plus may not be an issue. It may have some advantages, especially on small powered bookshelf speakers, something like an edifier that is a little bit harsh on the top end anyway, because the sound of the analog input is a little rich. It's kind of quite nice. It reminds me of some of the older Wolfson DACs and some of the Burr Brown DACs, which I actually enjoy the sound. You are sacrificing a ton of detail in the mid-range and the top end though with the internal DAC. Switching it to the digital output into the Cambridge Audio CX81, I keep forgetting the model number, instantly brought to life the detail in the mid-range and the top end. It's really no surprise, but I will say that the internal DAC is not as bad as I thought it would be. And it actually sounds very full and thick. It's going to cover up any recording issues. So if you have something you like to listen to poorly recorded music, it's going to kind of even it out a little bit. It's got punch though. It's got some thickness. It's got some caramel. It's not terrible. If you want detail though, do not use the internal DAC on the Arylic S10 Plus. Kind of surprised. I'm comparing the Weem Mini internal DAC to the internal DAC of the S10 Plus from Arylic. Weem isn't that bad. Now, they are very different sounding. The S10 Plus, I'm just going to say Arylic and Weem. The Arylic's DAC is thicker, fuller on the bottom end, but also more veiled. The Weem internal DAC has more going on the top end, so I'm hearing a lot more reverb. I was just listening to Give Me One Reason by Tracy Chapman. Brilliant song. If you haven't listened to it, please listen to it. All of the acoustic guitar stuff in the beginning, I could hear way more detail on the Weem than I could on the Arylic. But the Weem's DAC also had, I don't know, a little bit of wonkiness in the mid-range, the upper mid-range. Things seemed to kind of jump forward. The Arylic was just thick and juicy the whole time. Personally, I prefer the internal DAC on the Weem Mini over the Arylic, but depending upon the speakers, because I have this hooked up to the Emotiva B2 Plus, which is pretty clear speaker, pretty clean speaker. It's got a lot going on the top end. I would even say, dare I say, the S10 Plus from Arylic would actually be a very good complement to a Klipsch RP600M or RP500M, the first generation. Second generation I don't have, and I don't really remember exactly what they sounded like. But if you have anything that's harsh, like a Class D amplifier that's super harsh, I would choose the S10 Plus over the Weem. If you have a more balanced system though, I think the Weem's internal DAC is better. Both of them, though, pale in comparison to hooking up an external DAC. Even a super affordable one like the SU1 from SMSL. The good news is, if you're just getting started, it doesn't really matter because both the DACs inside the Weem Mini and the S10 Plus are okay and are going to get you what you need, which is streaming music. Cool thing about these streamers, they're cheaper than what Bluetooth adapters used to cost. So at $70, at $80, at $90, they're coming in less expensive than a quote-unquote hi-fi Bluetooth receiver. All of these products, the Arylic and the Weems, are cheaper than what A Zen Blue from iFi used to, I think it still does cost. I think those come in around $150 or $200, and they're just Bluetooth receivers. I don't know why anybody would want to buy just a Bluetooth receiver, because you can do Bluetooth through the Wii Mini and through the S10 Plus. You know, hi-fi is kind of like test driving a new car. There's nothing wrong with the car you have. You may love going around corners. You may think the steering's awesome. Then you test drive something new. And guess what? The steering on your car is not that great. It doesn't accelerate as fast as the new one. Hi-fi is kind of the same way. When I turned on the S10 Plus from Arylic initially, I was like, all right, this is not terrible. Pretty good, actually. And then I used the digital output. I'm like, okay, well, the internal DACs kind of almost muddy. It's veiled in comparison. And then I compare it to the Wii Mini, which I preferred the Wii Mini's internal DAC to the Arylic's. And then you optical out of the Wii Mini, and it's even better. Blah, blah, blah. I don't think the S10 Plus is a bad product at all. You're coming in at the same price, so it depends upon which ecosystem you're involved with and if you want to do whole home audio, because you can do whole home audio on the S10 Plus. I will say that the optical output on mine was a bit of a tight fit for my Audio Quest Cinnamon cable, which I know people get all upset about cables, but if you just buy the entry-level Audio Quest cables, they're not ridiculously expensive. And they're built better, and I actually think they sound better, but that's up to you. What you are getting is a USB input here for a thumb drive, and you're also getting hardwired internet if you want it. Kind of a bummer that there's two different apps that you have to utilize to get into any of the tone controls. The high-pass filter seems to have no impact on the sound, whether I'm running it digitally out or whether I'm running it analog out. I turned it on, I turned it all the way up, all the way into like 250 hertz, nothing, no difference. However, the one thing that does work on here is the deep bass intensity, basically a bass boost. Again, if you have something like an edifier, that could be very useful to bringing a really thin powered speaker to life on the bottom end. I don't know why they would allow you to toggle the high pass filter on and off, but it didn't do anything. I have no problem with this product, and I think Arylic does have a lane that they're in, and that's the ultra cheap streaming, the ultra cheap, somewhat preamps. They have another product that has an HDMI input, which if you're on a tight budget and you want to get sound from your television, make a bit of a soundbar replacement, I think Arylic, that's where they are. And so this product I think is good. I don't think it can really compete with the Weem at this point from a sound quality perspective, definitely not from a software perspective, but it's not bad. And if somebody was looking for a recommendation and didn't want to use the Weem, the Arylic's a viable option. I think it's a good product. Good. And it has a flavor. That flavor is kind of a thick, robust, slightly veiled, but not bad sound signature. I will link the S10 Plus in the description. I'll probably link it just to Arylic's site because I don't see that they have stock on Amazon right now. So if it's linked to the Arylic site, that's not an affiliate link. I'll also link the Weem on Amazon. That will be an affiliate link. It's a good way to support the channel without having to spend any extra money. If you do want to support the channel, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. You can also check out my Patreon community. It's the best hi-fi community out there. We have Facebook group. We have a Discord server. We do Zooms every other Sunday where we chit-chat. Depending upon which tier you're on, we can get together and talk about things one-on-one. We also do a couple, 2-3 meetups a year at Expona, at Capital Audio Fest, at some other audio shows. You also get your name in the credits of my videos. If you like this video on affordable streamers, you really should check out my video on the best system under $500. It talks about the Weem amplifier. So, don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen maybe through your new Arylic S10 Plus and fill your soul with happiness. With that, I'm Randy. I'm the cheap audio man.